It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
If you haven't hit the pinnacle of your fantasy league just yet, it might be because of these struggling stars that are primed to take off in 2024. We're breaking that all down and Friday's bets on the Friday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's get this Christmas money.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The rum nogs are flowing, the Christmas tree is a twinkling, and your fantasy squad is ready to get this money in the second half. Thank you for joining us for the Friday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast and for making us your first listen every single day. Feeling a little extra grateful on today's episode. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Steele, back in the booth. You and I are going to take a look at some of these stars rising from the ashes, fantasy stars primed for big 2024s. Off to a little bit slow start. Some of the players that we're looking at, I know I'm looking at, it's slow starts because of the high standards I'm holding for these big names. So yeah, by some player standards, they might be off to okay starts, but the players that I'm looking at are big fantasy pieces that I think are going to explode. Come after the holiday break. It is Christmas. Merry Christmas, my brother. Merry Christmas to everyone out there celebrating north and south of the border and all around the world. Over to you, my friend, because this is an interesting conversation to have. Maybe some of these targets that are struggling, you perhaps go and knock on the door for a buy low situation. I don't know what you think. Hit me with some of these players you're looking at.
Well, probably not going to be a buy low for this player I want to start off talking about. And it seems like you might have him on your list as well. As I can see from on today's show, the list over here, Matthew Tkachuk. We got to talk about Matthew Tkachuk and what he's been doing this season. Because the past 2 years, we saw greatness out of him, between the Calgary Flames and his first year with the Florida Panthers, back-to-back 40-plus goal seasons with 100-plus point totals. And now you're only on pace for 13 goals and 58 points. That is absurd from a player with the talent and caliber that Tkachuk brings to the game. And I want to bring up the quote that he said the other day. I'm not going to give up what we're building here to cheat for a little bit of more offense. And I like the quote and I like that mentality, but come on, man. We know what you can do. And just you can still put up points and score goals with winning games and not cheating a little bit. You're just not capitalizing. You're not bearing the opportunities. And that's what I've seen from Matthew Tkachuk. Because if you look across the board from his statistics standpoint, shooting percentage is garbage. Hits are down, 0 power play goals. He's a -1 on the season, which isn't terrible. But if you look at the past 2 years where he was a +29 and a +59, it's garbage. And he just has not been doing anything remotely Matthew Tkachuk-esque of what we've seen over the last 3 seasons in the NHL for him. He doesn't even crack the top 125 players in fantasy points this season.
Crazy.
That's how bad he's been putting up the offensive production for the Florida Panthers. But the reason why we haven't really criticized Tkachuk like we have with Huberdeau is because the Panthers are winning games right now. That's the only difference, because that's the only difference I can find, because right now both Huberdeau and Tkachuk, who are 100-plus point players that we've seen in the past, they are brutal right now. And GMs who drafted them, they've got to be furious with the production, especially out of Tkachuk, who's a first-round draft pick.
And I think you've laid the groundwork here very nicely for the point that I was going to make here with this player. Aside from the fact that the Florida Panthers are still, kudos to them for sitting there. They're tied for second in the Atlantic Division. And if not for the crazy, I don't know what kind of voodoo devil dance pack Boston Bruins fans have going on right now, that the Bruins are once again at the top of that division, they're the best team in the division. And this has to be said because we know how important to fantasy, aside for a second, the swagger, the energy on and off the ice of this squad runs through Matthew Tkachuk. We saw it last year on their trip all the way to the Stanley Cup. So aside from, we know that this is obviously affecting fantasy GMs because he was for sure a top 6 or 7 draft pick this year in a lot of drafts. 22 points in 31 games steal for a lot of players is pretty good. For his standards, it's garbage because he's also been such an impactful player. These aren't garbage time points. These are points in the clutch. They're game-winning goals. They're facilitating plays to set up his teammates. 42 goals 2 years ago. 40 goals last year. He enters the league putting up 24 and then 34. Clearly, this is a guy with right in the 35 to 40 goal potential. And with only 5, I say he explodes in the second half. And the point you made is what I'm feeling the most here. The Florida Panthers are a really, really good team. And if he's struggling now, maybe all he needs to do is have a little bit of stuffing, a little bit of cranberry sauce over the break steal and come back and blow the doors off the NHL. Because I think, given how good this team is playing and how we think that's going to continue, you can't help but expect Tkachuk to be a lot better, and we know he can do it.
He's got to be a lot better. Like you said, he was big momentum shift for them in the playoffs, and he was doing it all against the Carolina Hurricanes in that second round or in that third round. So absolute gong show in all honesty from Matthew Tkachuk's standpoint in the offensive zone of things. I want to talk about a player who's going to set up one of your players very, very nicely because they come from the same team, the Minnesota Wild. I got to talk about someone from their team. And I want to talk about the goaltender, Filip Gustavsson, 8-2 record. Again, my preseason bold prediction is way off the mark, just like usual. It's been an absolute gong show for those bold predictions. But the Wild team have been clawing and climbing the standings since the beginning of the season. They started at the bottom. They've slowly just been, grinding their way up the leaderboard here. And they've been doing great of recently. 7-3-0 in their last 10 games. Only 4 points back of the second wild card spot. I believe the Nashville Predators hold on to that. They're 11 points back of third in the Central Division. Those Winnipeg Jets hold on to that third spot in their division. So they are quite a few points back of the Jets right now, and they're just going to have to continue climbing up the leaderboard or climbing up the standings if they want to make the postseason. And Gustafsson has to be a reason for that. I know I've talked about this a lot. I like Marc-Andre Fleury as the backup, great mentorship, great guide for Filip Gustavsson in his career right now. And we've sort of seen Gustafsson do the exact same thing the Wild are doing, slowly getting back to what we saw from last year. He's now up to a .906 save percentage, a .290 goals against average. He has 2 shutouts on the season, but I need more out of him. And again, one of those goaltenders who I think he was one of the top 10 goaltenders taken off the board, maybe even top 7 off the board in the fantasy drafts. And it's just one of those guys who, if you drafted him, it's really been hurting your team, especially for the goalie categories and the goalie fantasy points. He just has not been his best. But again, it's a slow process right now for the Minnesota Wild and Filip Gustavsson to get back on track and get into the playoffs once again. I believe you talked about this yesterday, but the Wild also have a few injuries. They're on the IR. Matt Zuccarello now on the IR. Jared Spurgeon day-to-day. A few more other players on the IR. So it does hurt them, and a lot of their other players really have to step up and really, hold the fort down in front of Filip Gustavsson so he can do his job and just stay focused in the blue paint.
Considering the fact that Winnipeg is a lot better than we expected. Nashville is a lot better. Arizona's come out of nowhere. Even the St. Louis Blues have been, I would say, amongst some of those surprises for the most part. I thought they were going to be even worse. So now all of a sudden, the Minnesota Wild are behind the 8 ball, even if they were having a good start. And Gustafsson not getting it done, right along with the guy I'm going to talk about in a hot second not getting it done. Those are their 2 number 1 guys, Kaprizov, Gustafsson. Of course, you're going to bring up the importance of guys like Jared Spurgeon, Joel Eriksson Ek, and some others. But when it comes down to just the 2 most important pieces that are going to lead this team, it's their number 1 goaltender, and it's their only superstar in Kirill the Thrill. And much like Matthew Tkachuk in terms of we know this guy can produce at elite levels, 47 goals 2 years ago, 40 goals last year, 10 goals so far, Steele, for me, is a huge disappointment. He started slow, but let me explain to you why I think he's going to blow the doors off the league come 2024, because this Minnesota Wild team is on the rise. It cost Dean Evison his job, but let's talk about it. We'll talk about that and big-time bets right around the break, Steele, and I got to bounce back in a big way. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but that's why we show up every day, baby. We take it on the chin. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Your favorite team could hoist Stanley's mug. Your favorite player could pop 50, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and of course, daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. You got to be checking out Sleeper. All you got to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me. Your favorite team, you can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and get up $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to go to Locked On because they have launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, all day, every day, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, and a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, whenever you're tuning in and downloading. Thank you so much for tuning in. Flip, over to you to talk about my boy, Kirill Kaprizov. Tread lightly, though. Tread lightly.
I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm going to, because let's be clear. Coming into this season, we were all excited for the opportunity for Matt Boldy. We talked a lot about how we like Joel Eriksson. We talked about the combination, the chemistry Ryan Hartman, Zuccarello, and Kaprizov has formed. All of those things, Steele, at some point this season have gone out the window. Yeah. And so I'm not going to put this all on Kaprizov. This is why I think now that things are settling down a little bit in Minnesota and he's starting to look a little bit more comfortable, case in point in his last game where he popped 2, that's the Kirill Kaprizov that I think we're going to start to see night in and night out. We also know, Steele, he's a young Russian player who has had some problems with his confidence at times. And when you look at his time in the NHL, I know this is his 4th season in. He's only got 233 games under his belt. That's not a ton. A lot of players actually take about 150 to 200 games in the NHL to really hit their stride. The expectations is up for a player like this, Steele, and I think 10 goals in 30 games so far. His shooting percentage isn't exactly horrible. 10% right now, just over. I want to see him shoot the puck a little bit more. I think the confidence is coming for Gustavsson, for this squad. Let them get a couple of bodies back in the lineup. I know Zuccarello just goes down, and that's going to hurt him. But I think a couple of weeks down the road, especially when Zuccarello is back, 2024, new year, baby, new Kaprizov, and he's going to go off.
And I think he's going to go off too, and he's sort of starting to feel it right now. Like you said, pop 2 in that big overtime win where he played 26, just over 25 minutes actually against those Boston Bruins. But I like where this team is headed right now. Obviously, there's still a long way to go in the standings and in the Western Conference Central Division, obviously, with how the Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, and those Winnipeg Jets are playing. But they have a chance, and if they continue to play like this, they get some stellar goaltending out of Filip Gustavsson. They get some great offense from Kaprizov and even Boldy out there. I can see this team being one of those wild card teams just because of how the other 3 teams are playing right now in that Central Division. So big 2024 season out of Gustavsson and Kirill Kaprizov. Hopefully, gotta rep the Minnesota Wild, the green in the winter season, the holiday season. But I gotta go over to back to the Eastern Conference. Talk about my last player here, Brent Burns. I think honestly, Father Time may be finally catching up to Burns this season.
Could be
38 years old, soon to be 39. In March in 2024, only has 14 points in 32 games, on pace for 35 points, which would be one of the lowest of his careers, if not the lowest. Sure. But shots are down, blocks are down, hits are all significantly down. Time on ice is down 2 minutes. And it's very surprising to see this out of Brent Burns because it just seemed like it went from 100 to 0 real quickly overnight, honestly, this season. But Carolina has one of the top 10 power plays in the league, but Burns has not been the one helping them on the man advantage. Only has 4 power play points, only 5 goals for Burns on the blue line. Again, 14 points totals, and he's honestly just been struggling in the offensive zone. You know, his overall game has been pretty solid, but he just hasn't been that same guy who rips it from the blue line on the power play, joins the rush a few times, makes the easy and lethal pass that we know he can make. And the overall team of the Carolina has just been struggling to close out games and win games lately too. They're 3-4-3 in their last 10 games. And I think just overall Burns needs to be better. Unfortunately for me, like I only have Brent Burns in one of my leagues. It's my keeper league. And I can't even remember exactly where I drafted him at. And I'm fortunate enough that he hasn't been hurting my team significantly to what maybe other teams are looking at right now. But this might be the last good year of Brent Burns as, again, Father Time seems to be catching up to him.
Well, if his minutes on time on ice are any indication, obviously a guy who has logged as much ice and, 20-year career in the NHL. He's been in the NHL a long, long time. So there is nothing. Brent Burns is a defenseman. As a defenseman, is a guy who perennially puts up 300-plus shots. And obviously those days are behind him. But I like that you're pegging him for a bounce back and maybe a big year in 2024 in terms of where he has started so slow. Because also, the Carolina Hurricanes are tied to this overall as well. Key injuries, some bad performances, and overall this team has disappointed. And I think it speaks to the overall quality of them altogether as a pretty good all-around club that they are still sitting only 2 points back of second place in that Metro Division because it's been a bit of a gong show for this team all over the place. Svechnikov hurt again, inconsistencies for Aho and the forward group, banged up blue paint. They sent Ranta down. It's a little bit of a mess. And the fact that they're still there tells me, much like the Florida Panthers kind of propping up Matthew Tkachuk for a big second half, I think being a part of a really good blue line and a good team overall in Carolina, you're going to see this guy play how he plays. He's a Hall of Famer and a beaut. Very quickly, before I get to my last player, Steele, honorable mention to Dylan Cousins, the workhorse from Whitehorse. 6 goals, 12 assists so far. The reason why he's only honorable mention, I don't know how much I'm going to buy into the ability of this Buffalo Sabres team to put together consistent play and prop up a guy like Dylan Cousins who isn't having a good year. I have my eyes peeled on him because I do like this player. I just think it might be one of those years that we were just one off on the Buffalo Sabres, so maybe it's next year we take a look at some of these pieces. Not to say there isn't still a ton of value and time left. Dylan Cousins is one of those guys, Steele, that I think you and I can both agree that headed into this season, we expected a lot more after what we've seen from him. So there's an honorable mention. I think you're on point with me there. Last name. And I've brought it up and I've alluded to it, so I'm going to stick to my guns on it. Now that Craig Berube is gone, I'm looking right at Jordan Kyrou with a player with all the talent in the world, Steele, who seemingly has confidence issues. And I think if there's anything that's clear, and it's clear as mud right now in St. Louis what was going on with him and Berube, but clearly there was something up, and it was affecting his confidence because now, in the couple of games since, and I know he was held pointless against Tampa in the last game, he's looking a lot better. He's shooting the puck a lot more already, and I have my eyes double peeled on Jordan Kyrou to have a very, very big 2024.
Look, and I think we talked about this a little bit after both Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou got those massive contracts, is that they're the guys up now. They have to be the guys stepping up and be the superstars pretty much every single game. They've gotten rid of so many veterans over the last couple of years, Pietrangelo, Ryan O'Reilly, a few more names in the top six that have been taken out of or traded away. And exactly, those two guys are the guys now that are the faces of the Blues franchise after those massive contracts, and Jordan Kyrou has to be one of them night in and night out. So I like that you're pegging him for a comeback of the second half of the season starting 2024, because he really does need to get going, and he has been a lot better the last 3, 4, 5 games even. So I would really like to see him continue that into the new year. And into the second half of the 2024 season. We're going to get over to big time bets where the money is made, hopefully make some extra cash before Christmas hits us on Monday. But this episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Joe DiBiase of the Locked On Sabres podcast. ButcherBox has all you need for a tasty, stress-free holiday season with high-quality protein delivered to your door. Sometimes the best gifts are the ones you give yourself, and ButcherBox is here to help you treat yourself to more delicious, wholesome meals. Sign up today at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL to get free chicken wings for a year. That's 3 pounds of free-range organic chicken wings free in every order for a year when you sign up at butcherbox.com/NHL and use the code NHL.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, leave a follow, and a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us, especially over the holiday season, all that love and back to you over the Christmas time and into the new year. So thank you so much for tuning in 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Flip, it has been a rough last couple of days. I've honestly just been contemplating my gambling career at this point. That's okay. Maybe I'll take the rest of the year off, even though it's only 10 more days. But 2024 around the corner. Hopefully it starts off a little bit better than what we're going through right now.
I really hope so, Steele. And you know what? Look, this is what happens when you throw up bets on the internet every single day. Sometimes it's not going to be so rosy, but that's okay. I'm here for you, brother. I got a few picks, and if you're okay, I'm going to ream off 2 right away because I like my 3 bets tonight. I got a little mixed bag of selections here. Boston at Winnipeg. By the way, you're going to hear this a lot because I've been saying it. Those few weeks before the holiday break and the week or two after, and have a look, Steele. We've been butchered. We're on the butcher's block. We're in pieces, but we're going to get ourselves back together here. A little meat glue on the seams, and we're back together, baby. Boston into Winnipeg. 2 really good teams, and I think you're going to have here playoff atmosphere from start to finish, Steele, and you know where I'm headed with this one. Boston, 7-1-2 in their last 10 games against Winnipeg. However, I'm liking this just from, again, straight up and down. How about this one? Total gone under the number in 4 of the last 5 between these two. And that's where I'm going, Steele. Straight up and down. I'm feeling it. I go under 6.5. If you feel gutless, tease it up to 7.5. Get a lower odds. Slap it into a parlay. I'm saying 3-2, 3-1, right in that realm. Tight checking, low scoring. Hit me with the under in Boston. Winnipeg, that's my first pick. And I got to talk about this Philadelphia Flyers team. Last 10 games, aside from playing good right now, last 10 games against Detroit, 8-2-0 in their last 10 against the Red Wings. Loving this spot. This is one of the most disciplined groups in the NHL. They don't take a lot of penalties. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And unfortunately, as much as that has to do with the players, that's Johnny Torts getting this team going and ready to go, Steele. Wins in 3 straight, Washington, Detroit, and New Jersey. A couple of good teams in the mix there. Hit me with Philly. On the road here against Detroit, I don't know, Steele. A lot of new faces in the mix in Detroit, and things aren't clicking right now. I'm not sure if they will or not, but right now, hit me with Philly. Good money on the road, on the money line. That's my second pick.
I absolutely love the Bruins Jets under 6.5.
Oh.
You may even be able to tease it down to 5.5 if you're feeling a little bit spicy. Because I believe in the last 5 games, it has actually hit under 5.5 in a few of them. So I like that. That's going to be one of my honorable mentions. It doesn't make the top 3 here, but I will take the Jets on the money line at plus 108 against the Boston Bruins. They have lost their last 6 games, but this one's a little bit of a gut feeling. Jets at home, Bruins away, going to Winnipeg. I really like the way the Jets have been playing, and you were right in your preseason prediction about the Winnipeg Jets being a really good, solid team. So
appreciate that.
I'm going to take the Jets money line at plus 108, parlay that with the under 6.5 that you mentioned.
Okay.
Second pick of the night. I'm going to take the Blackhawks versus Canadiens under 6.5 at minus 130. Again, if you want to be a little bit spicy, take the under 5.5, because I kid you not, in the last 10 games between the Blackhawks and Canadiens, it's hit under 5.5 every single time. So I'm going to keep it at under 6.5 because it's minus 130. Parlay that with the other 2 picks, the Jets money line and the under 6.5 that you mentioned there, Flip. And then the lock of the night, or just the last pick of the night.
Sure.
McDavid anytime assist, or I'm going to wait to see what the odds are for over 1.5 points.
Love it.
Because 12 games, McDavid's 12 games against the New York Rangers. He has 6 goals, 12 assists for a total of 18 points. He likes playing against pretty much every team in the NHL. As of right now, I'm going to take the anytime assist from McDavid for my lock of the night.
Love it, Steele. Thursday night, the Edmonton Oilers are in action against the New Jersey Devils right now as we're recording. So, loving this angle because I actually think this is going. When I looked at this Edmonton-New York Rangers game, Steele, I was going to take the over because Calvin Pickard is going to be in net after Stuart Skinner played Thursday, but then I remembered how good John Quick has been this year. So if it's John Quick in there, I even like this angle for the Rangers at home even more. I think, look, when it comes down to a game, like it's 4-game board tonight, Steele, really, really tricky spots. And I understand Edmonton was in Jersey and now they're playing in New York. So it's basically they're not moving any spots. It's tough. And they haven't looked good over their last 3 or 4 games. Now they're sliding back to where they were to start the season. This is one of those ones I'm not overthinking, Steele. Rangers on the money line, minus 150 at home against the Edmonton Oilers is my lock of the night. The Oilers do have points in 7 of their last 10 games against the Rangers, including 6 wins. So, again, this one's a bit of a gut pick. Let's see how it pans out, though, because there's only one way, and it's up from here, baby. Let's get it.
Only up from here. Hopefully it's up in the entire season or the entire year of 2024. The new year, I can't believe it's only 10 days away. This 2023 has just absolutely flown by in a blink of an eye, but hopefully we'll see you all back here in the new year, continuing to tune in to the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for making it your first listen every single day. And again, go to Locked On. They've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. They're here for you 24/7 with the local experts of Locked On, covering the national shows in every single league. So go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your weekend with all your friends and family out there. Stay safe. Good luck with all your bets tonight. And we shall see you back here again on Monday.
Feliz Navidad.
My son had a gift with technology. With reliable internet at home through the Internet Essentials program, the world opened up. He's part of this next generation of young people who feel they can thrive.
Through Project UP, Comcast is committing $1 billion to help open doors for the next generation with the connectivity and skills they need to build a future of unlimited possibilities.
The Locked On NHL Podcast. Can't get enough of the NHL? Locked On NHL is your answer. Stay up to date on the biggest stories, the best rivalries, and the top stars around the league. Every win, every team, every day. Listen to Locked On NHL. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.